Yeah, hey Dave, I'm down here in the Bahamas, and we've been hanging out for a couple days and talking about the markets, but also changes in not just the stock markets themselves, but how they're talked about and reported online in the financial media. We've both been in this business now for quite some time and have seen many changes over the years. You've got all kinds of different ideas that you're thinking about playing.
Well, like one thing I thought about is, there's a bunch of articles recently on sites like Zero Hedge, and that site, which we'll talk about in a second, kind of influenced me as well. But that CNBC has all-time low ratings, because no one wants to watch that garbage, right? We recently saw a commentator on finance talk about it, like Nike had good earnings, why Nike is why American companies are great or something, right? And it's just all hype and beat.
Yeah, I think one thing about it is that the stock market has become overvalued, and there's no one really investing in it in the sense that they know that, I'm paying a good price or it makes sense from a valuation standpoint. No one cares anymore. They're just chasing stuff and justifying their buys, with hype. And it's in everything in the media, I think, has become unreal. So the financial media is reflecting that, and also so are the way the media reports about politics or world affairs. It's all propaganda almost, like this stuff going on in Iraq with this ISIS thing that's never put into any historical context. You just see these images over and over again of these people getting beheaded and how bad it is, but no one has ever laid out any strategy on how to win, how to do anything. And the stock market's the same way. They never talk about how you can actually have a strategy to buy one of these overvalued stocks and get out of it. It's just buy, So everything is like becoming kind of crazy,
Yeah, and I think that most people, like I said, as judging by the fact that CNBC's ratings have basically collapsed, are kind of like sick of it, and they're tired of being like hyped up and I don't want to say lied to, but just like told that there's nothing wrong with anything, and when these big bubbles going on, there's no like, hey, maybe we should be a little cautious here, maybe the market's overvalued. No one ever shows the ramifications of these bubbles. When these booms are going on, we see the buddy from Alibaba down there, and now he's a billionaire, and we read some stupid story about the guy from GoPro, which, excuse my language, I call shit on a stick, because it's just a camera on a stick, and how he made all his family into millionaires, and we see all this stuff, and we just hear, like, the good part of it, but, like, we never see the part, like, I like this British TV show called Top Gear, right, where they take cars around and they test cars, and they do this thing where they take these supercars around Europe, and they go through Spain, and they go through all these empty cities in Spain, like cities that they were all built up during the bubble, and now these cities are completely empty, and like all these construction workers who are mostly like poor African immigrants in Spain are unemployed, and Spain has 25% unemployment, and huge deficits. I think the GDP in Spain is now, which was very controllable before the financial crisis, is now at 70 or 80%. So these are the ramifications of these bubbles. So my idea is, I wanted to set up, and I'm going to call it the Contrarian Business News Network, where we're going to like take, and I'm going to start it really small, just a couple podcasts, a couple videos like this once in a while, but we're going to take a contrarian view towards these things. We're actually going to have one show that will warn about bubbles and talk about the ramifications of bubbles bursting, right? And why these governments keep recreating bubbles, because they kind of have to. And we'll also take a lighter view of a kind of like a happy hour show where we talk about some funny political or satire kind of events and just goof on people. And I'm actually going to have a show where we're going to get entrepreneurs, people who create businesses, and interview them in a hot tub, right? So we're going to like have fun with it, and we're also going to do things from like a contrarian kind of point of view. And basically what I really want to do is like do it more of an educational point of view, right? And show that there's also risks with these rewards, and try to kind of warn people about that and that sort of thing. Because I'm not perfect. I lose money in the market. You've done it. We all have done it, right? George Soros has done it. Warren Buffett's done it. Everyone loses money, right? So, and then you have to learn from those mistakes, but also, again, outline kind of the risks and kind of educate. And I also don't want to take it too seriously, right? I want to have some fun with it too. Like I said, this idea where we interview people in hot tubs, and we're gonna go around. Like, I live offshore here in the islands, so we're gonna go to different islands and tax havens and show people kind of on top of, like, okay, you just don't just move here not to pay taxes. There's also like a lifestyle in it, like the weather and like where I live, like here it's very small and peaceful and all this sort of thing. So we're going to kind of like show all these people things in another context as well. So anyhow, I just want to look at everything from kind of a different standpoint. And, and we talked about on the internet, we had talked about Zero Hedge, right? Which is kind of like a contrarian website. Or, RT, the Russian television thing, which, regardless of Russia's politics, like their financial shows kind of do things from a different point of view. And they have a lot of hits. They have more people watching some of these podcasts than CNBC or Fox Business has watching their actual TV shows, right? Even though those channels are all on DirecTV and whatnot. So essentially, we're going to start off. I'm going to start it with a kind of a podcast / video cast. It's going to be called Politically Incorrect Investing, where we're going to goof on Wall Street a bit. And we're going to have like fun goofing on the markets and also but showing the dangers of this kind of exuberant bullishness. And I'll probably launch that sometime in October of this year. And then we'll build it with some of these other shows. And hopefully at some point we build a website and we'll be having only like almost like daily videos and daily shows. But this is kind of just the starting point of this. This kind of this business news with a contrarian take.
No, it's going to be neat.
Yeah.
And,
well, and
it's time for some changes to happen in the way things are done here. Yeah.
Well, another thing too is like you're from Virginia, and I'm from Southern Ontario, and I live down here in the Bahamas. We both live in small places too, right? And John Templeton was from Tennessee, and Warren Buffett is from Nebraska. And it's like, why do a lot of these good investors come from, like George Soros too? He's from Hungary, right? So why do these investors come from these small places or weird places? Like, some of them are born in Manhattan or whatever too, right? Like Carl Icahn's from New York. But why do a lot of these investors come from these small places that are totally off the beaten path? Like Templeton's best years of performance came when he lived in Nassau, when Nassau looked more like this, right? So it's like, why does that happen? And we'll kind of like that. We're going to show people that you don't got to live in a big city with big skyscrapers and financial firms and Bank of America and Goldman Sachs high rises to make money. Like, you can do it from a place like this.
Yeah, sounds great. But we'll wrap up this video too, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we'll talk with y'all later.